Welcome to the Pebble in My Shoe podcast. I'm Miffy Hoad, your host here, and in each episode I'm in conversation with my guests about the pebble in their shoe that has nudged them to choose a life that aligns them closer to their truth and authentic self. The pebble in my shoe is an analogy for an inner niggle or knowing that becomes so insistent that we have to pay attention. We can ignore it only for so long and eventually have to stop to investigate it and listen to it and honour what it's telling us. It becomes a catalyst for action, to change something that no longer serves us. This can be something internal, like a belief or mindset. It can be about how we behave in certain situations or relationships. Or it can be something that changes our life trajectory, like ending a relationship, changing careers, or moving to a different place. Taking the action and making the change invariably requires courage, often a leap of faith, and at the very least to try something new and outside of our comfort zone. Whatever the action or change happens to be, the pebble ultimately moves us to live more authentically and more aligned to our true nature. My intention for the conversations here is to inspire or offer hope to those of you who resonate with the stories shared, that you'll hear something that supports you on your own journey, and if there's a pebble in your shoe, that you'll find the courage to make the changes that align you closer with your authentic self. Thank you for being here, and let me introduce today's guest. Julie Voss is an enthusiastic traveller, a self-care practitioner, a coffee drinker, and a sea dipper. After a long spell of travelling in the early 90s, Julie and her husband Jack came to Donegal, where they created a home, raised their 2 children, built up their careers, and settled into the community. Her life took a traumatic turn in April 2020, when Jack passed away suddenly from a brain haemorrhage. Since Jack's passing, Julie has retrained as a mindfulness, self-care and relaxation practitioner, facilitating groups all over County Donegal. She feels that facilitating these workshops benefit her just as much as they benefit the participants. They serve as a great reminder to care for ourselves. Julie and I have been friends for many years, and for the last few years we catch up by going for long walks together, where we talk for hours and put the world to rights. I'm delighted to introduce you to Julie Voss. So welcome, Julie, to the Pebble in My Shoe. It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you. It's lovely to be invited. Thank you.
We were talking about this before coming on to record, and how your experience doesn't really relate to a pebble in your shoe as such. It seems it minimizes it almost, because what we're here to talk about really is your navigating your experience of grief and bereavement, having lost your husband Jack. Where do you want to start with this story, Julie?
Well, I guess that the change for me was the day we found Jack. You know, we'd ran a life up until then as partners for over 30 years, like mates, you know. Mm. And so the change for me, which is where I am now, came from April in 2020 when Jack passed away unexpectedly from a brain hemorrhage. So there was no preparation and no warning. And I suppose that's where, well, the first year was an absolute blur. And I don't really remember very much of it, apart from the fact that it was lockdown, but it was just the shock and grief of him just disappearing out of our lives, which is what it feels like, because everything else was still there except him. So it was all too much to comprehend and to process because it was so big. So the first year was a blur. And then the second year, it changed in that it was still really hard, but it was a bit more clear. But then it becomes then running alongside the journey of grief of managing a life without you, my partner Jack. It was also trying to manage a future for myself. So I felt like I had these kind of 2 journeys, and I still have these 2 journeys. There's the grief of losing your partner and all the things you're missing out on together, but there's also sort of going on a journey of my own, finding myself, I suppose. It's a bit of a, that sort of like a self-discovery journey, but basically that's what it is. I think when your partner passes away, when you've been together for such a long time. So it's like, what do I like? Is that what I believe, or is that what I've chosen to believe? Because we kind of morph a little bit, don't we, when we're in a long-term relationship? So so that's when the journey started, was losing Jack, and it's a continual journey. 4.5 years later, I'm still trying to learn things about myself and still trying to manage a journey without the guy behind me who would have been my regulator, pulling me back, pushing me forward, and my safety. The world feels very, very unsafe now that he's not in it. And maybe because he was taken so quickly, he just disappeared, like I said, do you know?
Yeah. Wow. Julie, I know because we talk a lot. We're friends and we walk together, and on our walks we talk, and we can talk all day and walk all day and still have things to say. So, but because of that, I know that what I've witnessed in your journey is tremendous courage to be very present and very honest with the process and all that it is, really. And, you just spoke about rediscovering yourself. So can you talk to me a bit about that? I see courage, but what is it for you?
Well, thank you for that, seeing it as courage. I suppose I see it as I don't really have much of a choice in that, I didn't die. And life, I love life. I do love living, and thankfully, I'm not a person who would get very, very, very low. I wouldn't have to. I easily get out of bed in the mornings. It's not like there was any chance that this was going to actually sort of put me into a massively depressed state. So, because I love life, that's what that's what I mean, is because I really do enjoy it. I take the good out of it. I embrace it. So, obviously, that went on hold for a long time, but I think I have quite a good self-awareness. So I knew what filled me, and I knew what I could find the magic in. So I think, you know, I went in the garden for the first year and just stayed there and did gardening. And then I discovered, or I didn't discover obviously seed dipping, but I discovered my love of it the second year. So I started, I suppose, I remember when Jack passed away, one of the things I said is, I'm not doing anything anymore that doesn't make me happy, because I realized that life is so short. It can end abruptly. Your life can turn in an instant, which it did, for us. So I just thought, from now on, I'm going to choose to only do things that bring some spark and joy into my life. So that was probably an awareness that I have. And I am doing that. I didn't go back to the job I was doing. So whether it's courage, I don't know. It's just recognizing, like, you have to live, you have to enjoy it, and you can't spend lots of time doing things that don't make you happy, because it's a bit of an insult to a life if you're just spending most of your time doing things that you wished you weren't, do you know?
Yeah.
Or you wish you could do more things to enjoy. I mean, we've been given such a beautiful gift, and I am very aware of that, and that makes the difference. And I'm very, very open. If someone said, would you like to talk to a counsellor? I'd be like, yeah, fine. Or would you like to try this therapy? Yeah, I would be open to any of it. There's nothing I would say that would be like, no, I don't want to. No, I don't think I could. Because I think if I go to any counselling, any therapy, any holistic stuff, any courses where I can get one little bit of spark, which helps me on this journey, then to me, it's just worth going to it.
Yeah.
And I talked to lots of people. I took great comfort in talking to people who were ahead of me on the journey. So for the first year or two, in my network, there would be people who'd been widowed maybe the year before, and one lady 8 or 9 years before. And it was really, I learned an awful lot. And they gave me it was lovely having someone that far ahead, because it gave me the hope, like, well, they've managed it. They go out dancing now. They've gone back to work or go on holiday or whatever. It just gave me hope that I'm going to be able to do this, It's not a situation. It was a change that I really, really didn't want, but it came, and I can't change the changes. I can't bring Jack back. So it was really like I suppose, I just look for the magic in every day. And maybe that comes across as bravery and courage. I don't know, but it keeps me up, keeps my heart warm.
Yeah. And I suppose maybe that's what I see is also you balancing the two, because there is that love of life, getting up and showing up and going and doing the things you love, but there's also there's this honesty around the pain and the grief as well. And that's where I see the courage. And maybe courage isn't the right word. I don't know. It's just the being present to it all, the good and the bad, the painful and the joy.
Well, yeah, and I suppose I would face it. I mean, some days would be really, really hard, and you don't want to face it. But I wouldn't hide it. I'd be quite true to myself, I suppose, in that today's a rubbish day. I'm feeling a bit crap, so I'm not coming out, or I give myself permission to do that, I suppose. Um, And yeah, I would be, I'd be very open about talking about the struggles of it. And the first part of this is making it sound like, oh, I get such joy in every day and everything's fine. And it's really not, because there's lots of times where you get on a bit of a pity party because your mate's not there. And there's certain times of the year that are really struggling, like, Christmas is coming and it's about all families and happiness and around the trees. And it's not like that for everybody. And then holidays, there's certain at the beginning of the summer, I felt a little bit low in that lots of people are making plans to go on holidays with their partners or nights away or weekends away, and that's not happening. So you're missing out on so much that we did as a mate. So while I do see the magic, I also recognize and sit with the pain of it as well. And some days it's hard to do that, but other days I just allow myself to do that. I just try to be a little bit gentle with myself on it. And if I can get some support from someone to just help me understand myself better and the journey, then I'm willing to take it. But yeah, I mean, it's a journey I really, really don't want to be on. I have absolutely no choice, but I don't like it at all. I don't like all the things that Jack's missing out on. The advice we were given on the first year is, it's the first of everything. Once you get past the first year, it gets easier. Well, I just think anyone who says that hasn't had a big loss.
Okay.
Because I'm 4.5 years on and there's still lots of firsts. Like our daughter getting married there a couple of months ago. Hopefully I'll have grandchildren. These are all firsts, and they're all firsts that Jack won't be part of. So there's fresh grief all the time, but it changes. I think now, 4.5 years later, it's very different. It's much, much deeper. There's a different longing and missing there than there would have been 2 years ago. The grief journey just changes all the time. So it's lovely to be thought of as courageous. And I think in some ways I would be, but I also think that I don't actually have a choice. I'm not sure what else I could do.
I know.
Apart from lay down and put a blanket over me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Can you talk a bit about how you navigate those firsts, Julie? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Well, anything that's a date, like an anniversary or a Christmas or a birthday, that's coming. So that's how you prepare for them. So the first Christmas, at the time, our daughter Leela worked for an animal rescue centre. So on that first Christmas day, myself and Leela and our son Adam, we just went and worked that day, and we just had egg and chips for dinner. We just kind of swapped a present between us, and we just let it kind of go. We didn't put anything Christmassy up, and that was the way we managed it. But we could prepare for that because we knew it was coming. So while they're hard, the hardest ones are the ones that just come at you. Like me and Jack would have done a huge amount of traveling. So I'm going to end up, we went all over Europe and many parts of the world. So there's lots of countries if I go back to it, it'll be a first. And it's the ones that catch you off guard are the hardest.
Okay.
It's the first that catches you off guard that you're not prepared for. It's the little things, like I had to put oil in my car. That was a tough one because Jack always did it.
Okay.
So it's tiny little things. It's not the big things, when people say, oh, get past all the anniversaries. You can prepare for them. It's these little ones. So they do still take your breath away. So it's hard to navigate those moments because they come on you suddenly. It's just this sudden realization. Who cooks the dinner? Oh, Jack used to cook the dinner. Right, okay, well, I'm going to have to do that because I worked full time and he was at home quite a lot. Or, oh, the car's run out of fuel. All right, Jack used to do that. So those first are harder to navigate because they just jump on you. So you can't prepare for those. So they just, You just have to take a moment with it and just take a breath and go, something else that Jack did, I have to do. And he's not here anymore to do that for me. Do you know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned things like therapy and counseling and different things like that. What has helped you, Julie, navigate all of this?
Well, at the very beginning, a few months after we lost Jack, I went to psychotherapy. So that was introduced to me through where I work. And while I wasn't at work, my boss thought that I could go and speak to this psychotherapist if I wanted to in relation to this sudden loss and the trauma of that. So I did. And so that was amazing. And he did that. I never get it right. EDMR or EMDR. Is that a rapid eye movement?
Yes.
I think it might be EDMR. Yeah. So that was a therapy that I was very open to, and that really helped the process. It helped me process what had happened and just broke it down differently so my brain could assimilate it. So I would still check in with the psychotherapist. And then there's my daughter-in-law to be is a reflexologist now, so she's been doing treatments there. So there've been holistic treatments, there's been biomagnetic treatments. I actually went to sound bath treatment, the sound bathing therapy. So anything that comes at me, I will try. There's a shamanic journey, so I will try all that. Swimming in the sea is my biggest therapy, though. That has been my grounder, and that is what just resets me. So that's a huge one. And then running my own classes as well, running self-care classes, running mindfulness classes, running well-being classes and relaxation classes. Each time I would be facilitating that class, it kind of reminds me that I need to be doing this as well. So it's a win-win, really. So yeah, there isn't one particular therapy. So that was a very long answer to your question, but there isn't one. It's whatever comes my way. I will just say, yeah, great, I'll try it. Do you know?
And then in terms of your own practices, like what are your practices that help you aside from going for therapies and stuff, but your own personal sort of self-care and things that support you maybe on the bad days or on the good days or?
Yeah. Well, every morning I would just do some little quiet meditation practice to start the day with that. So I'd do that every day, just to sort of set me. Actually, that's after my coffee. That's my biggest therapy is my morning coffee. That brings me lots of joy. But after that, then I do my meditation. And I would have, lots of little techniques I could use through the day to bring me sort of into a state of calm. But being in the garden, that these are practices I would try and get out into nature, either doing a bit of gardening, even this time of year, there's tidying up or getting out into the forest. So I would spend as much time outside. I'm such an outside person as possible. That is the biggest therapy for me. And definitely the sea swimming. We'd be doing that like 4 or 5 times a week all year round, So that is a massive therapy. And I know, so even just an example, yesterday I was getting overwhelmed with lots of things I was doing, and it wasn't every little thing was small, but altogether I just got stressed with everything coming after me. So I just downed all my tools and just went into the sea. We met a couple of the girls who went into the sea, and it was honestly like a reset button. I just came back feeling much clearer, much calmer, and ready to carry on what I was doing. So that would be my biggest sort of practices is definitely meditation, definitely the sea, and definitely walking, any nature, really, anything outside nature, as much as possible.
Yeah. Would they have been practices that you've always done even prior to Jack's passing, or are any of them new or?
Definitely the sea dipping is new. I wouldn't have gone. I lived here now in Ireland for 32 years. I could say I went in the sea maybe 4 times in that whole time because it was always too cold.
Right.
So yeah, so that's definitely, yeah. And like that lockdown, it was only through lockdown because we were doing yoga on the beach and the girl invited us all to go in the sea. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not going in the sea. It's freezing. But I just felt it was a bit of a battle going on in my head through the relaxation, I have to say. This battle was going on in my head going, if I don't go in the sea, am I going to look stupid because I'm the only one in the group not going? And what if I do? It's going to be flipping freezing. But my son Adam is great because I call him Nike sometimes, just do it. So I walked out down from the yoga and just kept going. I thought, just do it. And I just carried on straight in, and that I was hooked. instantly hooked. It was just incredible. So no, that's a new one. I would have gardened and done a lot of walking, but I do find that I'm outside much more than I realized. I loved being outside anyway, but I realized how much of a solace it is for me outside even more. So yeah, that's new as well. Really since Jack. So probably, yeah, just them two are the biggest ones, you know. Yeah.
Can I ask you about your intuition, Julie? Where does your intuition or does your intuition play a part in all of this process for you with grieving and the bereavement itself?
In making decisions, in what way do you mean?
In what it how it informs you, I suppose.
Oh, so okay. So I have your gut is your second brain. So I call that my vomit meter.
Right.
So if you are, you know in your gut if things are right for you.
Mm,
And like I say, I've become much more self-aware over the last few years. I was quite a self-aware anyway, but I've done a lot more practice in that. So I think that anything that I was going to do or try or go somewhere, I would always look to my gut. That's my intuition and how I feel. And if someone says, "Would you like to climb a mountain?" and I go, "Well, yeah, okay," then that's my vomit meter is quite low. So it
mm,
hasn't gone like, "Whoa, no." But if someone says, "Would you like to jump out of a helicopter?" and my vomit meter would go way up there, almost like one of those fun fair, you hit a hammer and you hit it on this weight and the thing shoots up and it goes to different colors. And if you hit the top, it rings the bell. So that's how I visualize my vomit meter. So depending on how much it moves, if it
mm,
goes over a certain point, then that's my intuition goes absolutely no. And I'm getting better at being able to say, I actually don't think I could do that.
mm.
Because whereas before I would have gone, oh, they might be upset with me. I better do it. I don't want to let anyone down. Now I have to be true to myself and say, I actually don't think I can do that. I'm being totally honest with you. So that's where my intuition comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lovely visual, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that you have traveled,
Mhm.
and part of that has that, I remember you describing it as putting on your big girl pants and going traveling.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through some of that for you, how that was?
Well, I think I'm a bit of a nomad, and I blame it on the fact that I'm a Gemini. So that we're always a bit spacey and and I'm a rabbit in the Chinese. So I totally blame it on that, not on my personality at all, do you know? Yeah. But I've always loved traveling. I love new cultures. I think there's nothing more exciting than going into an airport, going through a door onto a flight and coming off in a totally different culture. It's just amazing. So myself and Jack actually went away for a year to India very quickly after we met. So we'd done lots of traveling and continued to. And when the children were quite small, we started again with the children. So I've always had the bug. And myself and Jack would have at least 3 holidays a year when he was here. We'd come home and, it might be a Christmas one or a summer one but we'd be exploring new places. So it was about 2 years actually after Jack passed away that was another first. It was like, oh my God, my travel buddy, because I never kind of thought about it because we weren't able to travel, with
Yes.
COVID and yeah, lockdown. So nobody was traveling. But the second summer when people were able to travel, that was a huge one for me. It was like, not only is Jack gone, he was my big travel buddy, and that's not happening anymore. And then I started thinking, oh, maybe I could go on a group. And, anyway, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to have to suck it up. I think I'm just going to have to go and try. So it's not, I didn't enjoy going on my own very much. I enjoyed lots of it, but I'm a people's person. I prefer a companion, but I don't want to just stop all that because that's a big part of who I am is traveling. So yeah, so I just did put my big girl's pants on and went over to Cascais in Portugal. And a lot of it was really lovely. And it was actually strange. On the fourth day, I was laying on the beach and I was starting to feel really hungry. And I remember just gathering up my stuff. And then I stopped and I was like, this is actually really strange. I could just gather up my gear and go, I'm going to get food, without having to say to someone else, Are you hungry? Do you want to eat? Are you okay here? It was right. I miss Jack like mad, but it was actually, I turned that into a positive. I was like, well, do you know what? I can get up whenever I want. I fancy a coffee. I don't have to take anyone else into account. So I actually then started thinking that maybe solo traveling might not be so bad. There might be a little bit of like freedom in that. And my biggest thing was not having anyone to eat with for dinner, at dinner time. That was what. So yeah, that's how I put my big girl's pants on and do it. And I will do more now, now that I've got that little bit of brave to do it. But I probably would go with groups because I do like companions, I'd like someone just to have dinner with in the evenings. That would be a big one for me. But yeah, that was a tough one. But like again, Miffy, it was something that just felt right.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about whether it was brave or courageous. I just wanted to go on holiday, and I'd never been there before. It was recommended by a lovely lady I know, a young woman who does yoga, and she was doing a retreat over there. And it came out because I saw her photograph and I was messaging her, where are you? That looks beautiful. She told me where she was. I looked it up and I was like, that looks really nice. I didn't do the retreat, but I went to the same place. So I never kind of thought a massive amount about it. I just did it. And the third day was horrible. I actually found my son in absolute tears. I was in bits. I was like, I shouldn't be here. This is horrible. I don't like it. I miss Dad. It's not okay. And he was really very good advice. He said to me, like, what's the worst about it? And I said, well, I don't like being on my own. I said, I'm sitting here, I'm having dinner on my own. And it's, and so he said, well, can you change something? Can you change the dinner if that's the biggest thing that's bothering you? So I was like, well, I have to eat. He goes, yeah, but maybe have a late breakfast and then have a dinner early, like eat at 5 instead of 8. He said, because around 5, when people are eating, it's much more informal. There's people coming off the beaches. They're still in the sandy clothes. And he said, and then maybe go out and have a drink on the square in the evening. So you're not doing that formal dinner. So I did. And do you know what? It was a turning point because you think, I don't have to eat at 8 o'clock where all the couples and the friends are. And then I did go and sit on the square, and there was a few other people sitting just on their own. We just not acknowledge each other, watch the music, and it was much better. So it's good to talk because you get these little tips of how to make life a little bit easier in these circumstances. So it was kind of a bit of a hurdle that I was able, with the help of my son, to get over,
Yeah, that's really powerful, isn't it? Because what I sense in that is that the power in you actually realizing that you had a choice, that there was something you could do about this that particular trigger, or that.
Yeah.
And therein lies our power when we feel we have some say in something that in the broader sense we don't have a say over, but there are the smaller pieces that we can choose.
Well, I suppose the whole circumstance for me, Miffy, is like my life has changed dramatically since Jack passed away. And in that, no, I don't have a power or a say, but I can make decisions throughout this journey on how I manage it.
Yeah.
Do you know? So like I say, I could have gone down and just put a blanket around me and stayed there and been a victim of like, I can't do it. I'm a widow now and, or I'm too sad. Or I can manage it by going, okay, today's a great day. I'm going to get out and do stuff. So you're right. We do always have that. We do have power. And when you do know that, it does make a big difference. And just that one small change of, well, don't eat at 8 o'clock, eat at 5 o'clock. And I was like, Jesus, yeah, of course I can, can't I? I can change that. I'm not stuck. And that changed my holiday. And it's made me more confident to go again because I know that I can make changes if I don't like it. And if I really don't like it, I can just get a flight home. So, yeah, that's made me a little bit braver.
Yeah. Yeah. Julie, I don't know if this question is fair, but I feel this nudge to ask it. And that is, what are you most proud of in how you have navigated this journey so far?
Well, I haven't given up. So that's probably quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't given up. I suppose the proudest, I don't know whether proud's the right word for me because I've never thought of it like that. But I suppose the fact that I have a lot of openness to whatever comes at me that, that, I mean, I don't mean in like grief and stuff. I mean, in like, if there is a therapy that's recommended or if there is a course that's recommended, I have a lot of openness. So yes, I'll go to it. Do you know? So I suppose I'm quite proud of the fact that I would be very open-minded about stuff and willing to give it a try without closing stuff down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm proud. I suppose I'm very willing to take on any hint or any little suggestion or tip that helps this journey to become a little bit gentler.
Mm.
And like I say, I can't change it, but I suppose that I'm kind of, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I'm proud of is that I'm not going to say embraced it because I really, really haven't, but it hasn't put me down. Do you know, it hasn't made me want to give up. It's like, okay, oh my God, right, we're on this journey. How am I going to navigate this? So I've been open to what's coming at me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I suppose that's what I'm proud of. Yeah. I'll probably come off this recording now and think of all the amazing things I could have said. Yeah. I don't know. But I'm following my intuition here, and this is what is coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely. And just on that, like you've made reference to how people say things that really aren't helpful, and you've talked a lot about the things that have helped you. And if there was somebody listening, maybe who isn't as far along on the journey as you are not yet, maybe are more newly bereaved, what is the thing to say to somebody, or what does help?
The main thing when you're on this horrible journey of grief is to just be really gentle with yourself.
Mm.
You know, that's all you can be. You do get lots of advice. You know, you were told, stay strong. And I remember saying to someone, you've got to be strong to stay strong. And who says I'm strong? Do you know, or, time's a great healer. You know, all these little cliches that people are saying because it kind of makes them feel better if they make you smile or they think they're giving you advice. So I would say, you know, just to be gentle with yourself, take every day. And if you can't stand up to people who are giving you this lovely advice, which is absolutely, totally unhelpful, just shrug it off at the door like a coat. Take it on, go, yeah, oh yeah, thanks very much. Oh, great. Because there's no point standing up against someone like, you know, who's giving you advice. Just agree, pretend that it's going to do you good and leave it on your door when you shut the door. And do your journey. Don't look to other people to see how they're managing. And I know I said before that I was looking at people ahead, and I was mainly looking in awe, going, oh my God, they survived it. You know, they have got themselves back together a little bit, enough to be able to go to work or meet their friends for coffee. So definitely look ahead for people like that, but not how they're managing their journey. Because they didn't lose, you know, people say, I know how you feel. My husband passed away. And I say to myself, you don't know how I feel. You know how you feel because it was your husband, but you didn't have my husband. So you don't know how I feel. Do you know? So I think we just have to say thank you for any advice that you're given, but really do the journey in the way that feels right for you. There's no competition there. And, you know, people are great for the first year, Miffy, to be honest. You are, you know, we were inundated with gifts and cards and flowers and lovely wishes and visits and everything. Right up the first Christmas, we had a room full of beautiful things. But life changes and moves on for everybody. And somebody else passes away, or, you know, we can't all stay in that bubble of being minded by the community because other people need that minding. And that really hurts because you do feel the journey of grief. It's not just, you don't just lose the person who passes away, you lose other things. You might lose friends that you had who couldn't stay there. You know, the neighbours aren't coming as much, or the community's not. That feels like a loss because while you still need protecting and minding, they can't keep doing that because other people need protecting and minding. So there is certain times where you feel you've been quite abandoned. And I think that's still okay to feel like that too, is to be just honest with how you feel for yourself and go with that. You know, everything changes, and the next week you might get a lovely card from someone and you think, oh great, everyone loves me again. So that's going to change, you know. But yeah, my advice would just be do the journey that feels right for you and don't look at other people. There is no timeline on grief. Just because your husband died 4.5 years ago, it's not, you know, you shouldn't be getting better. You know, it's changing all the time. So yeah, just do you, you know. If you can, try to just be with people who make you feel a little bit supported, you know, and understand when you want to talk about your loss and also understand when you don't, you know, because I don't want to talk about Jack dying every day of the week. Some days, even in the beginning, even in the first 6 months, I remember I had to go and see, there's so much official stuff to do when your partner passes away. And I remember I had to go to the bank, and I couldn't take that grief with me because this was an important thing I had to do to change stuff. So I just remember saying to Jack, I'm putting you in my heart. I have to go and do this. And I haven't forgotten you, but I'm putting you away in my heart just while I'm with the bank lady or whatever it was. And then you can bring them back out. So don't be afraid to do that either. Just lock them away for a couple of hours and come back to it later on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, actually. And it's, I suppose, leading me on to my next question that I'm curious about, I suppose, and that is, does spirituality play a role in this process for you?
I like to believe that our spirit is going on to a new life. And when we are spirit, we're not what we're wearing, which is our body. So I do. I don't follow a particular religion. I'd be very drawn towards Buddhism more than any of it. But yeah, I think if I didn't have some belief in something big out there, it would be much harder. I really struggle to think that after however many years we're alive, we're going to be put in a coffin under the ground or burned, and that's us gone. Is that what you mean by spirituality?
Well, yeah, or just even in your beliefs, how that supports you, and does it support you,
It confuses me because, I do like to think that, we are going to go freely wandering off, and meet up with people we've lost on maybe even on a different realm. I don't know. But I suppose for me, I don't look too deeply into that sort of stuff. But what lifts my spirit and gives and puts me more is being in nature. That's where I see the beauty of it. This is where I see the bigger picture, is the immensity and the enormity of what's around us and in that life, in that living, in the changing of the seasons. And so, yeah, that I suppose that's what I would be drawn to more if it was a spiritual journey. It's like go into a silent meditation retreat, or, go into the sea or walk along the beach. That fills me huge. And I have great faith in that big thing there, rather than thinking about a God or,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm just curious.
I think you have to have some belief, though, Miffy. I think you can't just, we do need to, well, I think I need to understand that there's a bigger picture out there that we're part of. I suppose if I've got time to just say very quickly this, I remember when I went to the psychotherapist and I was saying to him, one of the biggest things I struggled with when Jack passed away is that the world didn't stop. My world changed dramatically, but the world carried on. People still went in at dinner and did the shopping and put the laundry out, and cars were blaring, and and children were still like playing out. And I just really struggled with that, because I was like, there was a time where, for a little while I was saying to him, like, what the hell is it for? What's the point? What is the actual point? We come and we've gone. What is the point? Everything except Jack is here, or everything. He took his boots off that morning, and his socks were still in his boots. He's all still here and not him. What is the point of us all? The world didn't stop. But he sort of described it to me. He said, no, the world doesn't stop, and it won't for any of us. But he said, if you look on a micro, so, when you look really, really in, so he said, we're all running around like these little ants, and one little ant is taken away, like Jack passing away. So he's removed from it. So while those ants do continue running, they also have to fill a space where that ant was, that's gone. So he does make a difference. And he said, and on a macro level, when you're looking right out, you won't see a massive change, but you will see the formation change slightly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that made me feel really good, because I was like, oh, we do have a point then, and that change will be forever in the psyche of those little ants, because and then another ant will leave and we have to change again. So we're constantly adapting and modifying for people who are coming and going. So it just made me feel like, oh, there is a point to us, or not that there is a point to us, but we do make a difference in the world then, because it was like, well, when I go, what am I leaving behind? What's my legacy leaving behind? Or what was Jack's legacy? He's gone. Well, of course, now that I've come out of that fresh grief, he's in everyone's heart. He's in energies. He's in our spirit and stuff like that. And he's in Leela and Adam in future generations. But, for a time, it was like, what are we doing? Like, so when he explained that, I thought, well, that gave me a little bit of comfort as, yeah, he will be missed in the world,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Julie, thank you so much for being so generous, because it can't be easy either to come on and talk about all of this. But you've been very generous and honest and clear. It's lovely to hear you talk about this in such a hopeful way, I think.
Yeah, no, I think there is hope there because, like I say, my main thing is like I'm still alive. I do embrace life. I'm not going to say it's easy. So anyone who's listening, freshly bereaved, it's not. I don't want anyone to sort of think, "Oh, she makes it sound so easy," because it isn't. I'm 4.5 years on, so there's been a lot of journey and soul searching and many, many, many hours of tears. And I don't always manage it so well. Sometimes I probably just am a snotty mess, and that's okay too, because that's what it is for the day. But it is a very, very difficult journey, and it's one that you can never prepare yourself for. And I think that, the hierarchy of grief, I do feel there's a hierarchy of grief with someone losing a child at the very, very top, because that's the hardest loss. But I do think losing a partner is very high too, because that's the person you chose to be with. So to navigate a journey without them is going to be forever, because there's always going to be things that they're not there for and that they're going to miss. And Jack's in our hearts all the time. And I don't want it to minimize that by being quite hopeful about all that. But and I said, I'll go back to my very full circle to the very beginning. It's a life of two journeys. It's a journey of grief. And it's like a cart track. Sometimes I'm over on the journey of grief and I just can't get away from past being really upset today, and then I'll slip back over to the journey that's running alongside, which is me managing a life without him. So that's going to happen forever. And I think if we're very gentle and open with that and allow ourselves to be on one of the tracks or the other and be okay about that, then I think for me it's just I suppose that's my intuition as well. What journey am I on today? And they run alongside each other, like I said, but it's about being kind to yourself and knowing that both those journeys are okay. And that's just where we are, So to bring it full circle, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Julie. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really grateful to you.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I hope you've found this conversation inspiring and hopeful, and especially if you've been bereaved yourself, that you'll find glimmers of encouragement and hope in Julie's insights. Her self-awareness and ability to illustrate her experiences in such honest and humble ways always inspires me. Julie is available for mindfulness, well-being and self-care workshops and courses all over County Donegal. If you'd like to get in touch with her about this, you can email her for more information. You'll find her email address in the show notes. Thank you for listening to The Pebble in My Shoe. As well as hosting this podcast, I'm a personal growth coach at the Daisy Coaching Hub, where I provide one-to-one coaching for personal and spiritual growth, mental health and well-being, group mindfulness classes and events, and a range of original self-directed resources to support, nurture and energise you. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn at the Daisy Coaching Hub, or visit www.daisycoaching.ie. You can subscribe to my free weekly newsletter at the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.